Good morning, and welcome to the Mental Breakdown Morning Show. I'm Dr. Bernie Wilkinson.
I'm Dr. Richard Marshall.
And here we are on Wednesday, November 23.
Thanksgiving Eve.
2006. Yes, Thanksgiving Eve.
Right.
Tomorrow is the big day. So, you have plans all set and prepared?
Yes.
Have you started your turkey or ham or whatever it is that no? You're going to start that first thing early tomorrow morning?
I'm going to probably finish everything, all the shopping today.
Yeah. Oh.
The grocery stores will be packed.
They'll be packed.
They will. I do this every year. I say I'm going to do everything early. And here we are Wednesday. I don't have anything yet.
In my world, Wednesday is early.
The Muggle world.
That's right, in the Muggle world. That is a good movie. The Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
See that.
It's a really good movie.
No, it's traditions that we rush around getting ready for Thanksgiving.
But Harry Potter is a terrific example of what we're going to be talking about today.
Truly?
Blended families.
The new movie?
No. Just Harry Potter in general. Because Harry Potter didn't live with his biological parents. He was living with an extended family. And so the idea of
Dursleys.
Blended families and maybe more specifically, parenting kids that aren't your biological children,
right? And
what kind of complications and challenges that introduces.
That's right.
Because that's a whole new set of issues.
Because we have this week-long program on marriages, and we have a little disclaimer that we should make that most of all of our podcasts are for what do they call them? Rated G. Rated G.
Okay. Rated E for everybody if it was a video game.
E for everybody. However, there are topics that we're going to be discussing, children and relationships with children, that you may not want everybody to hear, or you may want to listen to it first.
Right.
Make sure it's okay. Nothing off color, like that. But just we're going to be discussing more serious topics.
Right.
So while anybody can hear it, we just want you to know that we're going to be discussing serious marriage topics in the next 2 weeks.
Right. And on Wednesdays, we typically respond to listener questions. And this was another one of those situations where we actually have received several letters and emails and things from people with basic. And the basic question is, but what about step families?
I think I know what prompted this letter, because on Monday we talked about communication.
Right.
But on Tuesday, we talked about the effect that children have on a marriage relationship.
Right.
And I think what happened is the person who wrote this letter, I think her question was, she's entering a relationship where there are going to be a blended family.
Right.
And she has concerns now.
Right.
I don't remember exactly how she put it, but she has concerns now because if a child enters a typical, a family, just one child, if that has an effect, what is the effect of trying to put two diverse, distinct families together?
Right. Yeah, and that specific letter was perfectly timed because of the topic for today. But also, like I said, we receive these kinds of questions all the time because it is a very different dynamic. And it introduces a new set of challenges that we must consider. And so, like you said, it is very much so the combination of issues from our Monday morning podcast and then our Tuesday morning podcast. Monday morning was communication, and Tuesday was, of course, the introduction of children. Right. So today is talking about the introduction or the idea of blended families and what challenges that presents. Right. Because in some ways it does mirror some of the issues that we have when we just have children naturally. But of course, with the divorce rate sort of maintaining right around 50% or so, many families, if not almost the majority of families, is a blended family now.
Right.
It is not at all uncommon for kids to have, they have their biological parents and sometimes a set of step parents, and so that leads to step grandparents and this
That's right.
this just keeps extending out, and so the families are growing in this way with the idea of blended families, and it introduces the issue of communication, the need for communication.
I think it really intensifies, increases the need to communicate effectively. I think what when you take on these blended families, as soon as you take that on, I think that communication becomes even more important.
Right.
Okay. So, and then the second thing is, the children are going to have more of an effect than they are in a just a standard nuclear family, and so you're going to have to work a little harder, and work on the relationship a little bit more, because now you have all these forces that are divisive, and so you have to work harder at keeping your relationship intact. So all the things we talked about Monday and Tuesday are really intensified.
Yeah, if you think about this situation, this scenario, you have the introduction of many more factors, not just the children themselves, but you have the introduction of the ex. So I'm a stepfather. I have a stepdaughter she's now an adult, but I entered her life when she was 5 years old, and and I got to be a part of her growing up and everything. And I feel in many ways that we were extremely lucky, because her father and I relate very well. We get along very well. We work together, and so we knew each other. He was actually my first roommate after moving out of my parents' home, and so it was wonderful, because we had a healthy relationship, so that we could communicate about things, and we continue to do that, because now we have grandchildren, and it's great to be able to communicate and to interact in a healthy way, so that we can talk about things and issues and resolve problems in a very easy way. A lot of couples, a lot of families don't have that. They are not able to communicate that way, and so it introduces a whole new set of factors that's going to be the root of conflict and confrontation and problems and issues and sour feelings and things like that.
Yeah, and you raise a good, we made the point on Tuesday that if you have a couple, if you have two children playing, and you introduce a third, it increases the likelihood of competition, division, and divisiveness. Now you're introducing several extra pieces, and the more pieces you have, the more things that can go wrong.
Absolutely.
It makes a huge difference if you have a widow and a widower getting married, because you don't have exes. You may have grandparents out there, but as so you have the new relationship, then you have maybe more than two ex-spouses, you have multiple children, you have multiple grandparents. So all of these moving parts are far more difficult to manage. Okay, and that's what you're doing. You're introducing complexity, and you need to know that going in. This is not going to be an easy ride. It's going to take a lot of work.
And so, kind of building off of what we talked about on Monday, the importance of communication, it is critical that very early in the relationship, some expectations are outlined as far as who does what. Does the step-parent discipline, or does the step-parent offer any redirection or apply consequences or any of that kind of thing to the stepchild? Is that acceptable in this relationship? Or will the biological parent be the primary person responsible for that? How does the step-parent get involved with interactions with the ex-spouse? So if, like in my situation, I was good friends with my wife's ex-husband. So do I handle conflict with him, or does she handle conflict with him? And luckily, again, we were in a situation where we could manage that pretty well, because there were times when I was able to talk with him, and there were times when she talked with him. Again, other relationships aren't like that. And so who is going to handle those conflicts, those issues? And that needs to be discussed and outlined very early in the relationship, so that there's no confusion, there's no misunderstandings. We know our roles very early.
Right.
The other thing that we have to communicate very effectively is, like I said, who is going to provide the redirection and management of the kids? Who sets the rules? Who enforces the rules? Who is going to be the one to apply consequences? And how are those consequences that you may apply at our home, how does that relate to the fact that, well, this evening the child goes to his other parent's house, and now those rules don't apply, or those consequences don't apply anymore, and all of this stuff has to be discussed.
That's right. And what you need to remember is that when you're bringing children, no matter what age they are, they can be 3 or 5 or 8, the older they are, the more difficult it is. Remember that these children have developed habitual ways of doing things.
Okay? They come already with all those things. With software already downloaded.
That's right. And so you're not going to change those habits very quickly. You can change them over time, but you're not going to change them quickly, and they're not going to change simply because you want them to change.
Right.
They are not your children.
Right.
We get this all the time in blended families where one of the spouses will say, well, if that the way we raised our daughters, they would never have done that.
Right.
Well, these are not your daughters.
Right.
They're somebody else's daughters. They were raised a different way, and now you're going to have to adjust, adapt, and move slowly.
Right.
Because if you start pushing too hard, you're going to make things worse, and things are going to start to break down. So patience, patience, patience. Remember, these kids have deeply ingrained habitual ways of doing things. Yeah. They're not going to change quickly.
And
they're
the
not
older
going to
they
change.
are,
The
more they have.
The deeper they are. So please don't be in a hurry.
Right. And the last piece I think that we really need to spend a second on is the idea that as the step parent, it is important, it is critical, it is necessary that you develop a couple of extra coats of skin, because you will hear, well, you're not my dad.
You're not my dad.
You're not my mom.
I don't have to listen to you. You're not my parent.
Exactly. You will hear, well, my dad said I don't have to do that.
That's right.
So you have to develop a thick enough skin to be able to handle that, because those are emotional words that come out at times when it's going to hurt, when it's going to be, it's going to have an impact on you, and you have to be able to weather that storm so that you can, get back with the child later and say, and the child may not apologize.
Right.
The child may say, well, it's the truth.
And you have to remember that as much as you may want to have a relationship with these children, they may not feel the same way.
Absolutely.
They may feel that they're being disloyal to their birth parent, and they may not want to have the same kind of close relationship that you want to have.
Right.
So you must proceed slowly.
And all of that is the case whether the other parent is involved or not.
Doesn't matter.
Sometimes it's even worse when the other parent isn't involved, because the child doesn't have any point of reference for that that other father, or the biological father, or the biological mother, and when there's no point of reference there, then they sort of have this fantasy of what life would be like with that person, and then they live their life off of that, or perceive your role based upon this fantasy that doesn't exist.
Yeah, they have this idealized parent out there who would be different compared to this parent who's mean and doesn't understand.
Has rules.
Right.
And finally, there will be a time, I don't want to say it that definitively. There will potentially be a time when, if the child is living in your home primarily, there may be a time when the child will come home and say, well, I want to go live with dad, or I want to go live with mom, which are the other family. I want to be there primarily. That will likely happen. Right. There's a strong likelihood for that. And that is, I think it makes sense that happens. Right. Because if we think about the traditional way, at least, in which time sharing is divided, the child traditionally, again, the child lives primarily with the mom, and visits dad, maybe one evening a week, every other weekend, those types of things. And that's starting to change. It's starting to get closer to 50-50 type of situation. But when you have that traditional time-sharing schedule, it is not surprising and not unexpected for kids to eventually say that. And again, it should make sense, because Well, when I go to that other parent's house, we go out to dinner. We don't have much. We get to do, it's more fun stuff because it's the weekend. Even if the other parent isn't trying to be Disney dad or a Disney mom or anything like that. Even if the other parent isn't doing any of those things, there just aren't the level of expectations at the other home, because every night when you're here, we have to do homework and we have to prepare for tests and we have chores and all that kind of stuff. And the child just simply may not have that at the other home. And so it's very attractive. They may want to do that. You have to be able to weather that as well. Sometimes it's okay to make that a trial. Let's give it a shot. Go stay with, if the other parent is okay with it, go stay there for a week or two and see how it goes.
Right.
Because typically, as soon as both the other parent and the child recognize that, well, you know what, I got to do homework no matter where I am, the comfort and the normal routine of being with the other parent, they start to realize that that's really what they need, and really is what's best, and so they tend to ask to come back. Now certainly there's, when there's conflicts and issues like that of course makes it for a different situation, but generally speaking, that's something not to be. Don't be surprised when that happens, right? And don't be hurt by it. That's that extra coating of skin that you have to.
You have to have an elephant hide. You have to know what you're getting into. On Tuesday, when we talked about the effect of children, in our introductory comments, we said that the engagement and first couple of years, that's as good as it's going to be. It's not going to get any better,
right?
Because in the first year, the marriage begins to
satisfaction
begins, and you have to enter this relationship with the same open eyes. That if you're having serious relationship problems with these children that you're about to enter into a family with, if you're having those when you're dating, it may get better when you get to, but it may not. And you need to realize that this may be as good as the relationship is going to be. Hopefully it will get better, but it may not. And you have to understand that it may get worse when you live together.
I thought you were going to say this may be as good as it gets, because that was Jack Nicholson's
it was
statement from that movie, As Good as It Gets, which was great.
But you have to know that, if you're struggling now, don't think that by getting married, it's going to get better. Because it may not. Because remember, these kids are all going to enter the teen years. And even if they're with their birth parents, the teen years are a struggle. They're more of a struggle with a step-parent.
Absolutely.
Okay? So go in with open eyes and be ready for some difficult times ahead. They're probably going to happen. They happen with all parents. But they happen with step-parents. Maybe they're a little more intense with step-parents.
So all right.
Caution.
So communicate. Talk about these things, and just be prepared, be ready for them. So, all right, that's it for today.
Wednesday.
So we'll be back tomorrow, Thursday,
Thanksgiving morning.
That's right.
Before the Macy's Day Parade.
Yeah, we'll be in early to record so that we can be all ready and have it posted, and so we'll be back home before the family even knows that we're gone.
They won't miss us.
I have no idea.
They'll be sleeping.
That's how sneaky we are. So, all right, we will see you tomorrow bright and early. Have a great day. And
get your shopping done early. Your grocery shopping. Okay.
All right.
Good day.
All right. Bye-bye.